This is African American History is American History. Welcome. I'm your host, Harlan Kearsley. This program's goal is to foster understanding, promote discussion, and expand knowledge through stories of historical events, bios of unsung heroes, as well as timely and relevant news stories which, hopefully, will paint a vivid picture of the effects of segregation, discrimination, and bigotry on the lives of both blacks and whites.
A Titan II missile lifts from its pad. This flight down the South Atlantic target range makes history. This is the booster that will carry the Gemini space vehicle on the nation's next manned spaceflight program. What makes this test stand as a milestone is a camera that is mounted on the second stage of the booster. It has been designed to record spectacular close-ups. As the Titan nears the fringe of space, the first stage shuts down. Now, watch. The second stage ignites, and with a mighty blast pushes the first stage away in shattered pieces. This is what an astronaut in the Gemini will see. At 17,000 miles an hour, the second stage leaves the abandoned first stage far behind as it soars 5,000 miles downrange. The curvature of the Earth is plainly visible. Through the magic of the camera, Earthlings take their first ride into space.
On June 30th, 1967, 32-year-old United States Air Force test pilot Major Robert Henry Lawrence Jr. became the first African American to be selected as an astronaut by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. In May of 1961, when the Mercury Redstone rocket carried the first American astronaut, Alan Shepard, into the frontier on its suborbital flight, NASA was scarcely integrated. Less than 3% of NASA's 19,000 employees were black in 1961. However, by 1965, at the time of the Salem to Montgomery, Alabama Civil Rights March, the Huntsville Rocket Center made what was considered then a bold move. The very first African-American astronaut candidate was test pilot Captain Ed Dwight, born September 9, 1933. He was selected for astronaut training in 1961. His selection earned him international media attention. Captain Dwight appeared on the covers of all the black news magazines of the day, such as Ebony, Jet, and Sepia. However, constant racial discrimination from other astronauts, and facing a lack of career opportunities, Dwight resigned from the Air Force in 1966. He moved to Denver and earned an MFA degree in sculpture from the University of Denver in 1977. Born October 2, 1935, United Air Force Major Robert Henry Lawrence Jr. would become the first African-American astronaut. Lawrence was an accomplished fighter pilot, accumulating well over 2,500 flight hours, 2,000 of which were in jets. On June 30, 1967, Major Lawrence was selected by the USAF as an astronaut in the Air Force's MALL program. That's Manned Orbital Laboratory Program, making him the first African-American to be selected as an astronaut by any national space program. Meanwhile, he earned a doctorate in physical chemistry from Ohio University in 1965. His Air Force honors included the Commendation Medal and the Outstanding Unit Citation. Of the significance of his selection to be the first black astronaut, Lawrence said with his typical modesty,
"This is nothing dramatic. It's just a normal progression. I've been very fortunate."
This is African American History is American History. At the announcement of the mall team, Major Lawrence was peppered with a number of thinly veiled racist questions from the press. Questions such as, quote, "Will you have to sit in the back seat of the capsule?" End quote. Now, rather than responding with anger, Major Lawrence simply laughed them off. When asked if his selection was historic for race relations in the United States, Major Lawrence answered,
No, I don't think so. It's another one of those things that we look forward to in civil rights. Normal progression. Look, I face problems like any other black man, but perhaps I have been more fortunate than the others in the opportunities that have come my way.
Born and raised in Winona, Mississippi, Donald H. Peterson, who was also chosen for the mall program with Lawrence, was asked, as a Southerner, how he felt about going into space with a black man. Peterson, without hesitation, said,
"I can't speak for all the people in Mississippi, but I have no reluctance to work with a black man."
As fate would have it, on December 8, 1967, Major Lawrence was flying back seat in an F-104 starfighter out of Edwards Air Force Base in California. He was the instructor pilot for a flight test trainee, learning the steep descent glide technique. The pilot flying made such an approach, but flared too late. The airplane struck the ground hard. Its main gear failed, it caught fire and rolled. The front seat pilot ejected upward and survived with major injuries. The back seat, which delays a moment to avoid hitting the front seat, ejected sideways, killing the 32-year-old Major Robert Henry Lawrence Jr. instantly. Had Lawrence survived, he more than likely would have been among the mall astronauts who became NASA Astronaut Group 7. After the mall program's cancellation, they all flew on the space shuttle. This is African American History is American History. Major Robert Henry Lawrence Jr. left behind a wife, Barbara Kress. They married in 1958, and a son, Tracy. On December 8, 1997, Robert Henry Lawrence Jr.'s name was inscribed on the Space Mirror Memorial at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The memorial was dedicated in 1991 to honor all astronauts who have lost their lives on space missions or training for missions. NASA astronaut and former agency administrator General Charles Bolden, who flew on 4 space shuttle missions, piloted the Space Shuttle Columbia in 1986 and the Space Shuttle Discovery in 1990. That's the mission that deployed the Hubble Space Telescope, said of Major Robert Henry Lawrence Jr., quote, "He is one of the giants on whose shoulders I stand. He was the first, but definitely not the last. He was undeterred by segregation and discrimination that he would find at every turn." End quote. Although his career was cut short, Major Robert Henry Lawrence Jr. paved the way for future generations of aerospace pioneers, highlighting the need for diversity and inclusion across the industry. This has been African American History is American History. The episode you've been listening to, The Tragic Story of Major Robert Henry Lawrence Jr., was written and directed by Harlan Kearsley. The voice actors for this episode were Jeffrey Shupert as Donald H. Peterson and Robert McKay as Major Robert Henry Lawrence Jr. I'm Harlan Kearsley. And on behalf of everyone here at African American History is American History, thank you very much for listening. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. Now remember, it's free, and once you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, you'll be notified as soon as new episodes are posted. Thanks again, and please stay safe. African American History is American History. Copyright H.C. Kearsley, 2023.